Hey there and welcome to my studio. I am Riccardo Gioggi and today we'll figure out what's the best string gauge for your guitar. So, what's the best string gauge? This is one of the questions I get asked the most, both from my students and people connecting with me on my social media platforms or during my guitar clinics. If you are new to my channel, I do videos about guitar content such as gear reviews, guitar tuition, guitar playthrough, as much as guitar lessons to help you grow as a guitar player and musician, to give you some tips and to show you some new interesting gear such as guitars, pedals and new products in general. So, if you are new here, consider subscribing, but let's dive into the content. What is the best string gauge? I think any string gauge from 0.8 to 0.12 or heavier may sound really good, but there are two other things to consider besides the strings: the guitarist and the guitar. So let's talk about you, the guitarist. How is your playing? Do you play thrash metal riffs all the time, or do you play in a neo-soul project? Are you more a lead guitar player rather than a rhythm guitar player? And how much do you use bending and vibrato? Do you play in a standard tuning, or do you use different tunings such as a half step down or a whole step down or lower? And most of all, how's the tone you want to get? I always get a lot of different answers to these questions. Someone wants to get a very bright and sparkling tone, someone else wants to get the heaviest guitar tone ever, other guitarists just want to feel comfortable and playing with no effort, but I'm sorry, I have to say it, some of them simply don't know why they use the string gauge they use. They just never paid attention to this. Nothing personal, if you are in this last group of guitarists I just described, let me say that I have been in this group too. When I started playing guitar, I totally had no idea about what strings and what gauge I should use. And I admit it didn't really matter to me at the time. But little by little I started paying more and more attention to the quality of my tone. And I started experiment with strings. I tried possibly any string brand on this planet and tried different gauges. Some strings were okay, some were total others were good. It has been quite a long process. Then I figured out one very interesting fact, that the very same string gauge will give me completely different results on different guitars in terms of tone and comfort. And this brings me to the second point to consider. Your guitar. Let's talk about the guitar you play. Do you play a fixed bridge guitar or a floating bridge one? Do you use high output humbuckers or low output pickups? What is the length scale of your guitar? I want to give you a very simple but very effective tip. Just try different string gauges on every single guitar you own. You may prefer the 0.9 gauges on one guitar, but realize that the very same 0.9 gauge doesn't feel so good on another guitar of yours. You will be surprised about it. It's very important that you are open to different options and that you don't have any preconceptions. Sometimes I heard or read crazy statements like
11 are the best, 9 are for children,
or
I use 10s only and any other gauge is a total.
That is so not true. I use the Dario NYXL 9-42 on most of my guitars because I really like the feel and the tone of this gauge. Let me show you. I use 9-42 on this one, 9-54 on this guitar. This is a 7th string, but for example on my old Gibson SG I use NYXL 10-52, and for this one I use 10s, 10-46, NYXL of course. On this custom fretless Ibanez I use 12s, and on this 8 strings Ibanez I use NYXLs 10-74. I also tried the 11-54 in standard tuning, but it doesn't feel good enough for me with the kind of guitars I have for the moment. If you are one of those who are convinced that big strings equals big tone, check the next part of the video. Let's check what string gauge some of our best colleagues use, according to some research I did. Steve Vai, 9-42, standard tuning. Jose Triani, 9-42, standard tuning, or 10-46, a half step down tuning. Brian May, 8-38 in the early years of his career with Queen, suddenly 9-42. Mr. Paul Gilbert, Paul Gilbert constantly changes from 0.8 to 0.11, so I can't really say exactly what string gauge he's using at the moment. Stevie Ray Vaughan, 13 to 58, a half step down tuning. Slash 11 to 48, a half step down tuning. Steve Lukather, 9 to 42. And last but not least, Mr. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, 0.7 to 38. And those guys are not just amazing players, but they are real tone wizards too. Question of the day: what string gauge do you use and why? Are you happy with the string gauge you're currently using, or are you still searching for the perfect gauge? Let us know in the comment section. At the end of the day, what's the best string gauge? Here's the answer. It's the one which allows you to play fluently, and this depends on your hands. It's the one which gets out the best tone out of you, and this depends on your ear and personal taste. It's the one which gets the best tone out of your guitar, and this depends, of course, on the guitar you play. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this video interesting and useful. Subscribe to my channel and don't forget to activate the notification bell. In this way you'll be supporting my activity and my next video contents. You can also find me on the other social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and of course on my website riccardogioggi.com. Thanks again and see you in the next video. Bye!